I've never been more productive in my entire life. I'm working for a sound engineer. We're just crapping out songs, like 2 songs a day. Like, oh my god,
like on some Scrooge McDuck business. Like instead of just diving into
just
music
like don't think about it. This is how to write. Yeah, cool. Print.
And review. Well, man, I'm just really encouraged to hear though that as creatives that, especially during this whole pandemic, that you guys have seemed to be getting work and at least keeping the culture alive, which a lot of us needed, because a lot of us obviously lost our way, I suppose, if you haven't had something that you wanted to kind of get done through the the lockdown and the little kind of break period that we've had. So as of now, we're now actually seeing, as even me speaking to like my my psychiatrist and such before, last year, basically saying it's like the next thing that they predict as the next pandemic is obviously going to make me the mental fallout because of the lack of communication that we've had, interaction, and then going to create like amazing events that what you guys are hosting and holding and actually being there. But I suppose it gives you a bit more of an insight to who you really are as a person if you want to go to that level. But cool. Right. So, well, technically, I guess we already started. So welcome to the IAmHipHop in collaboration with the High Creativity podcast. And we are joined today by 2 absolutely amazing creative individuals. One going by Torben, the other one by Botis. Is it Botis or is it Botis? How do we pronounce it?
The second one. That's good. Botis.
Yeah, right, cool. Yeah. I was here just kind of practicing. Is it Botis or is it Botis? It sounds kind of French. So I thought let's go with the Botis.
That's more effort than a lot of people put in.
I also don't want to let down my peoples. I'm just saying we share a complexion on both halves. Just trying to keep the ground open there. But no, first of all, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today and taking the time out of your busy schedules to have a little chit chat with ourselves. But let's start off with how you guys are doing today.
Go on, T. No, I'm doing good, man. I think like I said, we're keeping productive and keeping busy, which is great. I'm alive and well, so it's like, not complaining, man. Really, but in a really great creative space at the moment. So doing amazing.
Yeah, I definitely echo that sentiment, man. Just totally blessed to be healthy and happy and safe. And man, what more can you really want from that? And then on top of that, we get to do nice creative work and stuff like that. I mean, we're 2 of the most blessed individuals on the planet, I think.
That's some high energy business right there. So, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, that's where the focus is. But don't let it discourage you, man. They've definitely put in the work to get where they are today. So, Botis, I believe, according to your whole resume, which is quite extensive, but we can break it down that you're a choreographer, director, and dance artist, and Torben, that you're a music producer and composer. So, in a case, we'll start with you, Torben, because a lot of people kind of will say, well, why are you putting music producer and composer together in kind of like, as 2 separate titles? Do you mind just breaking down why you add the 2?
Yeah, absolutely. I think basically it's to cover all bases because a lot of people have preconceived ideas about what either one of those things are. To some people, a composer means you literally will be writing classical or you'll score music on the. See, I'm so musically illiterate. I don't even know what it's called. The lines with the
where the music sheets. You mean? And
yeah. That's what I'm saying. You can see my lack of education in music. So that's what that conjures for a lot of people. That's what they think of when they hear composer, which isn't necessarily true. I mean, you can compose a film score without writing a piece of music at all. You could just arranging music in different places. It can mean that also. And then also some people think music producer might just be the sound engineerial part of it. Whereas a lot of people that are into hip hop or you're into like the beat scene, when you hear music producer, you think someone who makes beats. And all of these things are true. I do all of them. So I thought it's just better to kind of, for the ease of understanding, I do a bit of everything. And it's quite, make sure that people get the right impression of what I do so they don't kind of pigeonhole me in one place or another. Often people see the 2 and they go, oh, he DJs then. I'm like,
yeah, no, that's what I do. That's what I don't. I don't music produce or compose. I DJ. All right, I take what they give me the stuff, and I make you dance to it. That's my job here. So, and on to you there, Botis is so like choreographer, director, dance artist as well. So very extensive. So you pretty much not only take the front stage, you also lead the backstage. You also then put the whole thing together, and then you also then direct people on how to put that. So what's that kind of experience been like for you as, I suppose maybe starting off as a dance artist, and then how did everything else kind of roll on?
Yeah, so I started off as a dancer, so dancing for like another company, and that was kind of I think dancing for someone else is always kind of a great experience in terms of you basically just learn a lot in terms of what works, what doesn't work. And I think kind of choreographing was something that I think I almost fell into. Is something that I always kind of wanted to do after dancing for a company. I think just watching how things were kind of put together, I was always kind of just fascinated with the architect of how things kind of how you put things together, or why things move in certain ways. And I think as a choreographer, when you kind of step into that realm, you then slowly step into this role of like directing people as well. But I think all of these things, it was a weird things I never knew I was directing until someone said, yeah, you're actually now directing. I was like, okay, that's great. It's like I become some sort of director. But it's because I think it's because you never really label it. But I think starting off as a dancer is basically your foundation and a base that kind of helps for you to understand what choreographing is and directing is. And then like doing stuff for film as well compared to doing stuff on stage, there's very different, they have similar things, but they're just like working on stage and working on like a film is totally, I feel like it's totally a different thing. But it's just, you can respect both crafts, but they have their different disciplines that you have to kind of study, or even now like reading about how to make films and watching a lot of films, you understand the real craft that it takes. So it's, yeah, I think I'm dancing less now. I'm dancing less now. I'm more directing, choreographing. I think dancing is great, but I find it's tough. It's
you
tough.
With the big return. It's going to be good.
We'll go again. That's chasing that back end, as they say, but also saving your knees in the process as well. But I'm sure you're still cut up a rug, as they used to, or they say, my showing my age a bit, or you know, on a dance floor. I'm sure you're out dance most of us, including me. So that's fine. But I'll give my little two boogies here and there. It's fine as long as I can catch a beat, as I say. But all right, wicked. So no, thanks very much for kind of getting into that. But what I'm now also kind of interested in is how you both kind of got to where you are. So kind of like your lives growing up. So we'll start with keeping it fair, Botis. If you know, what was life growing up for you to get to these, you know, these stages and such?
That's a big question. It's like to go through the whole. In terms of where I started, the dance was probably something I never wanted to do. It's not like I was never really into it. My first love has always been music, which was making music, writing music and stuff. That started off in the beginning. I started predominantly doing like. It was at that time. It was still. No, it is. I'm not talking like I'm old. It's a grime music. It's basically grime. Like grime was what I wanted to do. I'm like that was like my key thing. And somehow that kind of never really worked out. Might not have been that good. Probably wasn't. So I fell into. So like I think how dance came along was kind of. Basically, the school that I used to go at, they used to kind of bring these kind of choreographers who used to come in basically every year to do like talent shows. So they had like loads of choreographers every year. I think they've done it for about 4 years because they kind of just wanted to help kids to kind of develop in a different way. Mm-hmm. So I fell into kind of dance through that, of finding like a choreographer kind of coming in and saying, I'm doing this dance thing. I really got into it because it kind of got me out of like detention, like because I wasn't so great at I wasn't so great at staying focused in school, but that gave a lot of young kids just the opportunity to be able to do something after school, because a lot of times after school there isn't really much to do. It's either you're just hanging around and just doing stuff and causing trouble. I think that elevated the idea of just doing something. So kind of dance kind of started from kind of school, and then from school I had kind of a community hall, like a youth club that I found from a friend who told me, oh, there's something that's going on every week. So I used to go to kind of that. I was kind of doing music there, and then also kind of I met like a really great friend called Charlene Carter, who she basically introduced me into dance. She just said, "Come, just try this dance thing, innit? Like I think you might you got some few moves." I said, "Yeah." Like I tried it and stuff. Come
get your boogie on.
Yeah. Basically, it was like, yeah, just come dance. But basically from there, so like I basically made this company through basically a youth club, through like just kind of meeting people, because everyone used to just come through the youth club and people had nothing to do. So it was just like, let's make some dance stuff and let's just, you know, do stuff. So that's where I kind of met a lot of friends, a lot of people, and I basically started. I lived in I lived in Dagenham I was born in Dagenham, lived in Dagenham for quite a long time. So that's where I kind of started the foundation of a company. It was like basically just in a youth club, practicing every day after school. And then from then I kind of started to apply for different platforms and like meet different people and start to kind of travel when I had the money. And I think that's for me, in very short terms, that's kind of like how I really started a company. It started in a small place to now kind of great beginning. So it's probably some of it.
Well, no, well, thanks very much for even condensing it, but that's definitely worth a Netflix documentary or something. So Netflix, if you're listening, or PBS or HBO, let's really expand on this and also get the visuals working as well. And Torben, so how did you get to where?
Yeah, so I'm from a town called Andover, which is a small town sort of southwest of London, sort of near Basingstoke and all that. It's a small Hampshire town, which doesn't have a lot going on, to say the least. So I moved out when I was 18, 19. I moved to London in with a friend of mine who was a dancer. He'd moved to Kingston in London to study dance. And it's one of these things that I didn't really realize until quite recently, like on reflection. I started to think, why? I always thought that I sort of fell into the dance theatre world, and it's just like a circumstance of just luck and just coincidence that I happened to be around these dancers that needed music, and I've always been making some just beats from when I was 15, 16, and now I sort of reflect on it a bit more, and I realize that I've always had an interest in movement. And my best friend that I met in my hometown that moved to Kingston, we bonded over dance. Like when we get to parties together when we were like 15, 16, he'd be like popping and whatever. And I'd learn all this crip walking from YouTube videos. I was like that absolute loser. He's doing all that crip walking, which, culturally questionable now. I probably shouldn't have been doing any of that, but you live and you learn. And then, so I think at a certain point, I probably dropped the dance. So I probably felt a bit uncomfortable in my skin at a certain point growing up. I felt I was a bit too gangly or whatever. And I said, okay, actually, I've lost the confidence to dance. I always enjoyed it. So I'll make the music. But yeah, just because of being around him, and then obviously he moved to study dance and being around dancers almost exclusively, I must have realized that there's something drawing me to that energy, that sort of communication with movement. And so from there, I just started mingling with more dancers, and then had the opportunity to meet Botis, and then started doing pieces of work for people's university pieces as they were finishing uni, while I was working in the coffee shops in Kingston and stuff like that. But yeah, I think generally speaking, it was just the desire to get out of my hometown was one of the biggest things, big motivation, because there's just absolutely nothing going on there. And to find some sort of way to express something that you're trying to figure out something for yourself. And I think the music and the movement, as I've realized now, have been one of the things that I've trying to figure out something for myself within. It's like you're trying to answer a question of yourself, and these are the only two mediums I know how to do it in. I keep trying to answer every piece that I do,
That's amazing, man. Reference to your Crip stuff back then, absolutely fine. Never really could pull it off, but I'm Caribbean heritage, so I'm more concentrated on catching a wine. So I'm fine with that, rather than just dancing around, throwing hand signals and such. But culturally appropriate, it was for the time as it is, and we are more inclusive than most.
Young, dumb 13, 14-year-old. I mean,
what else is there to do? You're discovering the world. There's trends. I mean, I'm also a bit slightly older than you guys, so your generation is completely different with the sense of where you're exposed to with how social media and the internet was growing. So don't feel no way. Yes, I've got some stuff that I look back to and you cringe, but it makes you feel alive. It's like that cold brisk on the back of your your neck.
You don't have to stand by everything you've done.
Yeah, no. Just leave it. Especially cancel culture, leave it. Right, so because there's also the company that I want to get into, because you actually started that from 19, which is very, very entrepreneurship, I think, maybe, or just that 5 brain thinking, I think, is the term that the kids say that these days. But what I'm also more interested to, first of all, is how did y'all meet? How did that connection happen? Was it did you guys have one of those funny kind of stories where it's kind of like, oh, you know, miss this, or was it just right of circumstances, environment?
I think Botis has probably got a better memory than me. I've famously got a horrible memory.
What's your memory?
I can't remember the first time we met, no, but I know that how we met. It would have been through Botis's now partner, Lee, and producer, superwoman extraordinaire. She's an amazing person, and she was, at the time when I met her, she was dating my friend that I moved to London with, and I ended up producing her final dance university piece. And I suppose probably a year or two after that, she met you, and you changed her life. And then I think she said, "Oh, I know a guy because you're probably looking to produce something." But I can't remember what piece it was. I don't know. I don't really remember the first meeting, honestly.
Yeah, it was. I think. Yeah, it was basically that was it. Like I think it was. No, I think I sent you. Yeah, like, Lee played me some stuff, and I was like, "Oh yeah, like got this show coming up that we were just kind of doing in Dagenham every year." And I was like, "Oh yeah, just I'll send him. I think I sent you like an email or something." I said and I said, "Oh yeah, I got this idea. I think like, what do you think? Like, can you make some stuff?"
Do you remember what piece it was, or no?
I think so. I think there was two pieces. It was like you done a remix to Black Skinhead, like Kanye West's track. You remixed that, and you done like another track. I was like, hey, this is sick,
you know, all these things we said earlier about like not standing by some of the things you've made in the past.
This is one of those. This is one of them. Yeah.
No, you played it back to me at one point. I was like, I don't recognize that. Like, brother, you made this.
Well, that's the thing. Thanks very much for sharing that. Maybe I should start with first of all, but it's like so many connections just happen so humbly and sometimes so naturally that, you know, it comes to a point. It's like, oh, wait a minute, how did we actually connect and how did we actually end up here? And we're still kind of just pushing forward and doing our thing. So when, you know, I had certain people kind of blow it out of proportion, that it's like, yo, no, this is, you know, this has to happen like this, and then this person happened and this helped me break, rather than kind of like, well, look, my guy's doing this, I know this person that's doing that, and it's just natural networking. It's still for me one of the best and organic ways on how to build long-standing relationships, which is obviously proof in the pudding here. But Botis, far from the norm, man, because you mentioned already lightly about starting the company, but I mean, from 19, what was the influence to say, you know what, I need to make sure I've got a company from here in order for my next steps going forward?
Yeah, I would say it's my mum. Like, I think my mum kind of, it's because it's like culturally, like dancing isn't a thing that it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't really bring any like value into the household. So I think it was important when I said I wasn't going to, like I said to mum, I went to like college. I did a year and I went to another 3 years. But I kind of dropped out, and then I was meant to go to university. And then when I told my mom that I wasn't going to university and I was going to be at a youth club dancing, she was just like, not. She was not convinced, man. She was just like, this is not gonna work. Like, so in my head, I was like, I have to start young, and I have to just basically do this thing. I have to do it. Like, she has to know that this is possible. But I think also the whole point of starting a company quite young was. At the time, I feel like even now, there isn't that much places to go to if you haven't studied. I think coming from hip hop, street dance, that's what I knew. Like, I was just watching like stuff on YouTube, or not even YouTube, I was watching stuff like You Got Served and this stuff, and I was trying to copy all of that stuff. And I think education of trying to go to like a contemporary school, which I was getting pushed at to go to quite a lot. One thing I didn't resonate with the training of contemporary dance. I didn't really think it is. The value of it in my body doesn't work. Like, it doesn't. I can't really point my feet. I don't know those techniques. They don't sit well with me. So it's like the only thing I could do was basically start something. And I think I drawed other people who were also in the same boat, who said, I don't really want to go training. I just want to, you know, hip hop is training. We train this thing. We do it literally every day. That is our training. And I think it doesn't have the same value as ballet or contemporary because people don't see it as elite. But if you spend hours in a space for like 8 hours every day, that's pure training. And I think that's the attitude that I wanted to bring with the company. Slightly young was just the idea that there's nothing out there. Do it yourself, and make something out of it. You know, like, you don't have to. There's billions of kids, man. There's kids in the world. We can't all go to school. It's impossible to all go study. And if we all go in that same route, then I think we'll just you're creating like, not clowns, I'm not saying disrespectful, you're just creating like what's it called, you're creating the same people. And I think for me, it was about trying to do something that feels different and that feels authentic in where I was living at the time as well. So yeah, I think it's just important, man, just for, especially for our generation now, is people are now just doing their thing. You see like with record labels now, with music industries who are creating their own labels. I think I take that inspiration as well, is that people are, they're saying, yes, I just want to do it myself now. And I think we need more of that a little bit. So yeah.
Just for clarification, B, when you say clowns, you meant clones, yeah?
Clowns as in like maybe clones. Yeah, clowns. I think not clowns.
I would have called it. I just went sheeple.
This guy just called everyone in university a clown.
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna say that in it. Like, no.
Disclaimer: these views and opinions expressed by
I mean clothes. Sorry, clothes. Just in case everyone starts to get at me, might start to cancel me already.
That's fine. I'll see in the edits of where I should just leave that out to kind of save your grace. But no, we get what you mean. 100%. You're right though. It's like a lot of people follow certain trends or go down certain funnels really, and they really tunnel themselves into a specific outcome, and then they wonder when they're not the first on the train why they're the ones not getting as much feedback or as response as those who had jumped on it at the beginning. But it's once again, it's what's their environment, how open are they to new experiences, trying new things. Like one of the key things I've been saying to a lot of my local not local, but my circle of friends, especially those who are trying to do their own thing, because I set up my own company, High Creativity. I design my own t-shirts, I do DJ, I do these other bits. Is like, look, follow your life is like a tree really, and the best way to look at it is your experiences are like the branches, and every branch has additional branches which create new branches, and then a leaf pops up. So that could be the end result of one thing you've explored. But if you limit how you go and the routes you choose to take, then you're really going to miss out on a lot, as a lot of people say, like, and they really say this in a lot of, and it's hard to comprehend when you're younger, but when they do say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, that really does resonate. But it's not until, like you were saying, you had a chance, Torben, to reflect. You're like, it's like, wow, actually now when I really think about it, I just really feel so immersed in the sense of music and movement. Then with you, Botis is like, what, I don't see anyone, with the stuff that we do, there isn't actually a said syllabus on that. It's like there isn't a kind of A, B, and C, and how do we get here? So then you try to create something which you've done, and then you go forward. So, but anyways, that's me just putting my 2 pence in with some of the amazing stuff you guys are doing.
Very well articulated. I think that's very, very true.
So, and with you then now, Torben, because you're now seen as one of the leading figures in the UK hip hop dance theatre, as it's been sold to us in our notes and such. But what's crazy is that we have worked with the Scottish Dance Theatre, the National Youth Dance Company, Danza, Contemporina, the Cuba. Like, I mean, I would and even working with Matthew Robertson with the Verve, bruh. Accolades, but so I mean, in a sense, what was it? I mean, what's the journey been like? Working with, don't have to get into all of them, but maybe the ones that stick out the most. What is it been like working with the Scottish Dance Theatre and the National Youth Dance Company, and providing a lot of these audible experiences, not just for the audience but for the dancers as well?
Yeah, I think one of the key themes in my career has been, and maybe this is quite a lesson to those wondering whether they can do anything, is often saying yes to opportunities when they arise and then just sort of figuring it out along the way. Like, yeah, I could definitely do that, and being like, how the hell do I do this? I have no idea what I'm doing. And then sort of figuring it out on the way. And I think that's a super, super valuable sort of approach to take within limits, obviously. But I think a lot of people feel as if they can't do something, or people like them shouldn't be able to do something. And I think that, I should say, first and foremost, I think that's one of the things that's made it possible for me to do things and work with a lot of different people. I think the other thing to highlight is just, I'm very self-critical. I don't always think I make the best music in the world. I always try to, but I always don't achieve it. But I know the one thing's for sure is I know that I'm very good to work with. I think that's one of the things that I try to take forward through all these people that I work with, all these different companies and things like this. I think that I've sort of established a reputation of someone who's quite sensitive to collaboration and is very I'm very open to other people's points of view, and then we might get onto it later. But the collaboration between Botis and I is very collaborative. Like his input is absolutely paramount to all the music that gets made. But yeah, to kind of more pointedly answer the question, which I have actually forgotten, is that
I was just asking about your, you know, like what's your journey been like, you know, in the experience of working with all of these, you know, great, you know, companies.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's just I almost can't believe it every time that I get to work with somebody new. Like it's just I can't believe that I get to carry on doing this, and that's what the experience is like. So, and just really blessed to be able to work in these environments where people are putting themselves really on the line and work, and that's what I feel about dance in general. It's really inspiring to watch, and I think that's one of the big motivations to keep going. Is watching dancers move is so inspiring because they train hard. Harder than, and far from the norm. Botis' group trains harder than any group I've ever seen, any athletes, anyone, and they really put themselves on the line, and that's something that is very motivating for me to try and put my best into the work to do them justice, you know. And I think I try to do as many different and work with many different people because I like to explore the bounds of my artistic expression. I think when we grow up, especially if you're like a producer, you grow up listening to lots of producers and you see that they have very definable styles and sounds. And you start to, when you realize that you don't really have that growing up, because you end up, you grow up and you're sort of just copying other people's beats. Like for the longest time, I was just basically copying an LA producer called Exile, just straight up, just like biting his stuff for ages. But it's like a necessary part of the process. But I feel like a lot of people would doubt themselves because they think, oh, what's my artistic expression? Why? Like, I'm just copying everyone else, and where am I going to find to get my sound from? And I don't know if that's necessarily the right way to think about it, or at least it wasn't in my journey. I thought that, you know what, I'm not the same person when I'm around everyone. You morph a little bit depending on the kind of company that you keep, and that's just a natural thing. And you are what you are with somebody else is the relationship between the two of you, because you're not the same with your parents as you are with your friends. So you change. And I sort of thought that was an important thing to keep in mind artistically as I moved and worked with different people. And this is more feathers in your cap, you know, like this is how I want to sound when I'm with this room. This is how I want to sound when I'm in here. And I really want to find the bounds of what I can do musically and develop myself. So that's one of the things that I love about working with such vast varieties of dance, like from hip hop to contemporary as well. And also like flying the flag of hip hop within the contemporary world as well. So like, it doesn't always have to be, I don't know, super abstract drone music, contemporary music. I don't know, I'm being quite judgmental, but you can have something with a hip hop bass, you know, something with a bit of rhythm, something with a groove, and so like you can make something that's beautiful and abstract, but to something that has some hip hop fundamentals in there as well.
With some soul, as I'll call it. But also, thanks very much for sharing as well. But some real wise words there. So for everyone listening or watching, just take what he's just said and apply that to all things, because you even kind of made me think, because I forget sometimes how flexible I am as well with when I work with other people, or I'm treating each person as a unique entity rather than, you know what, this is what I've learned, this is how I've learned it, so, you know, here you go. Yeah. And if you don't get it, it's not my fault. Or if you don't like what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake to think of yourself as being necessarily inauthentic if you're not exactly the same person in every scenario and every collaborative thing, because you can't be. You are what the relationship between you and two people, like you're just going to morph, and you shouldn't beat yourself up, I think, if you're not exactly the same person as you were with this person, because it's just not possible.
Bars. That's what I'm gonna say. Bars. Right. And so with you now, Botis, because you've won some really crazy like awards. At least the Olivier, is that how it's pronounced? Because there's too many I's for it to be Oliver, so I'm guessing it's Olivier. And also an avant-garde as well. I mean, your accolades are just as impressive as Torben, so the connection makes sense now. And we will definitely get into your guys' collaborations as well, and even your BBC COVID mashup as well, which is I'm really interested to get into. But anyways, yo, dog. So how was that whole process in preparing in order to win these, you know, amazing awards and having that on your resume?
Yeah, like you never prepare to win. I think especially I didn't even know that. I think that I never really knew that the Olivier existed in terms of I would never hear of it because it's just something that's probably just happens. But I think when we got nominated for it for the show that we're doing called Black Dog. I think for me I was just kind of in shock a little bit with. I think winning an award was a bit like I don't know. It took me a lot to kind of reflect on like the reasons of obviously winning it and kind of just receiving an award. But I think it made me just realize the amount of work that you put. And sometimes when you look at the amount of work, sometimes you just look in the present, but then just looking back of like where I kind of started, and I kind of reflected a lot back of just spending a lot of times in the youth club and the community hall. Like consistently, that all of that work has come to like winning this award, but it doesn't stop. I think for a lot of people who thought that we won an award, they just felt like, oh yeah, you're going to start getting loads of these jobs and stuff. That never really happened. I think it just gave us. It gave the culture the existence of like, yeah, you can be on a big stage. You can use hip hop. Like hip hop can be on that stage, and a lot of young people can see that and be like, oh, it's possible because. When I researched about the award, I think it's been 10 years since someone of hip hop has won it, and that's a long time.
Oh wow!
You know, it's 10 years is a long. When I heard that, I was like, the concept of like 10 years of like no hip hop. Well, hip hop people have been nominated but haven't won. So I just felt a little bit like, you know, it's all been ballet and hip hop. It's all been ballet and contemporary dance. Like it hasn't been anything that's inspired by hip hop or street dance. And I think for me. Something has to change. It just made sense of like it shouldn't take 10 years for hip hop to be on stage, but for me it's amazing. I don't really see them as I just see them as great achievements, and it's for the working hard and also for the dancers who put their blood, sweat and tears into it. So yeah, man.
Yeah, definitely. And also once again, 10 years. Regardless, we done it again though, for real, all for the culture. And we got to thank you for that, Botis. I'm sorry, it's all you, bro. But also in the case of that, because obviously even to get up to this point of when, you know, Black Dog was originally released, I believe it was in 2019.
Yeah.
You also, you know, you've toured a lot as well. Like even in the case of with Norway and Airwaves, you with the urban moves in Oslo, Norway. You've traveled to Denmark. You've done the Greenwich Docklands International Festivals, Norfolk. You know, once again, just a great list of things. I suppose it's just asking the same sort of thing. Like, what did you kind of, you know, learn from those experiences? What did you gain from those experiences? And, you know, life of being, you know, being on the road, taking your hip hop dance to the world.
I think I learned something about. How can I explain it? I think people love you more outside than when you're in London, and I think that's just a reality. Yeah, man, that's just my feel. That's what I think anyway. I think that's just true, right? Because it's. I think maybe people it's the comfortability. People, if you're in London, people obviously know you, and I think this is not a bad thing, but it's just you. I think the traveling and the going out. I think I just learn a lot from like just how people watch your work or how people talk about it. Just like a different understanding, different perspective, and it just makes you realize that the world is just super big. Sometimes, obviously, I also get comfortable in the idea of just London, but then you realize that just around the world, there's so many different fits, so many different places, and stuff that you learn. But to be fair, it feels more just a blessing to travel because we've recently just like come back. We were up in Slovenia and then Amsterdam, and then we traveled to Greece as well to do the show. And I think just doing that, I was just like, even traveling during the COVID times and how things are now, you just realize that to just get out the country is like a big stepping stone of a blessing. And I think every tour date that we do, and I say to the dancers, like, you have to give, it's almost like this is like your last show. And I think that's how the dancers now take it. It's like, if it could be the last show, then it might be another year of not doing anything again. So we just need to acknowledge those blessings that we have and just utilize them and just do the best possible. So yeah, for me it's great. Traveling is good. I do like it.
Nice though. I think it's just like you're not the only person to ever said that outside of their own kind of, especially like major places like, you know, London, New York, and a lot of people say as soon as you kind of leave then you seem to get like a different level of energy. But I guess that's also because, especially here for us in the UK, we're spoilt here in London, like in most cases. And also, I mean, I know Kingston very well. I used to work up there, but then, you know, I used to work in Richmond as well. But then even thinking the journey, the spaces, they are walkable, but not, we're talking like that's, you said to yourself, I'm going for a walk today kind of business, because it's not like a 10-minute. But as soon as you start getting past like the Richmond areas, or you start to get more into the city and you start going into your zones 3 and 2, then now everything starts to congregate together. Now you're finding bunches of, you know, loads of great different creative outlets. Like you got Shoreditch, you got your Camdens, you know, you've got your South Bank, you've got all of these amazing places where creatives literally just get together. People just come out to do their own thing. And then as long as you're you have the ability, social skills, should we say, or at least just be able to say hi, or I don't know, maybe create a Tinder app or some sort. But you'll find someone, and I'm sure something will, you know, sort of develop from there, if anything. But this is now cracking into the, you know, the Black Dog part of the pod, which is also one of the main reasons why you're here as well, because you guys are now officially back on this year. Which is amazing. I'm actually going to try and get out to see you. Like, no, because I saw you guys previews. And I'm not going to lie, I'm slightly gassed. I don't know why. The sound, like you said, Torben's filling the room with the sounds. You're hearing that boom, that soul. Then watching you guys all like, oh, dog, like I'm sorry, I get, because I can't do all that stuff, and I'm a proper hip hop head. Like I'm all for all culture, though, from the graffiti to the DJ to the b-boy and b-girl to all of this. So when I'm seeing this, I'm just like, oh god, this is kind of cold, man. This feels like some real Phantom of the, you know, like the hip hop opera kind of thing, but its own kind of flex. You know, I wouldn't half expect someone to come out with a half face. You know, I'm just playing it. But so guys, if you don't mind, so how did the whole Black Dog project all come together? Let's start with that. What was the inspiration? Well, I've seen what you got your inspiration from, but I'd like you to break down the whole process, if you don't mind, gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to go first with that one, B.
The whole process of Black Dog. No, to keep it simple, it is, and to keep it blunt and simple in a good way. The main inspiration is my son. He was born. He's 4 years old now. He started school today, which is emotional.
Oh,
emotional time.
Oh my God, first day. Congratulations.
He started. Listen, that's like a.
Send me a picture. Surely take a picture. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
That's another thing, man. I know they cried, man. I'm like, man, 4 years old, man, gosh. But now it's been like, yes, like I think he was born in 2017, and then made the piece in 2018. So the reflection was a lot of. I think when he was born, it was just the idea of I loved him so much, and then it got to like a certain point where I was just like, I don't really know how to. Basically, the simple thing, I don't know how to love. Like, I don't know how to love another human being, and give that kind of same love back. And I think I struggled just with the idea of like growing up without a father, and just kind of loads of those emotions start to kind of kick in and be like, oh, why wasn't my dad around, or you know, like maybe he could have loved him more, and these kind of concepts started flicking in my head. So I. Just started coming up with this idea of the show in terms of I came across a book called Shoot the Damn Dog, and it's a book by a woman called Sally Brampton, who she wrote this book. She suffered depression. She wrote this book, and then she committed suicide. I think like 2 years after she wrote this book.
Did she also wasn't she part of L as well in 1985? Wasn't she? Didn't she help create that? I think I saw some blurb about her as well. I'm not too sure.
What's that? I'm not too sure.
But anyway, sorry, didn't mean to stop the flow. Anyways, so anyway, so yeah, she went through a stint of depression and such, and then we'll fact check the last bit, but yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. But yeah, so I think picking up that, I randomly picked up that book, and it was obviously called The Black Dog, and that's where obviously the name came from. And I was like, okay, I started looking more into kind of the Black Dog and concepts behind it. A lot of it had kind of concepts behind depression, like the Black Dog of like Churchill. He always had this figure of a black dog kind of around him, and depression was kind of haunting him. So then I think the idea about haunting and Black Dog and depression, and obviously the level of rate of like suicide it's always been high. It's not like it's a new thing, but I think all of these emotions of like fatherhood, of people losing their lives, of depression, of someone writing a book who seems like she's okay, that she's come out the other end, but then 2 years later she commits suicide. Like, it's very, all of those emotions you can't explain. So for me, I was like, okay, I need to find a way to just illustrate, like, how do I illustrate this? How do I talk about this? So yeah, it was a long development of writing it. I started just writing concepts and ideas, and then we basically started to somehow make this show. Torben can talk about the other how it is, because it's a long journey.
Yeah. I think we probably started with quite a few conversations about some general concepts, and obviously I think when we talk about making pieces, we don't talk explicitly about the subject matter that we're trying to talk about, but we talk about actually our personal experiences and how and we start working with those. I think in terms of the production of the piece, it started off with Botis sending me loads of different ideas of very abstract scenes and images. It sends me a lot of images, which is very helpful for me, because obviously eventually we're making something that's going to be seen, a very visual element. So I really need lots of art to look at and things like those to inspire me. So and then just sort of very, very, very abstract sort of scenes that are and contradicting messages. Botis is amazing at being very specific, but also contradictory, and or in the way that makes his work so great is be like, okay, this is the main phrase that we use. It's like, okay, I want this to sound like this, but it has to feel like they're, I don't know, underground, and it's got to be, how do we make this hip hop, but it's got to have no hip hop in it. Like,
okay. Sounds easy enough.
Right, yeah. I'll work on the underground hip hop, non-hip hop thing. Got it. And imagine if everything was like purple. I'm like, okay, cool, perfect. And just like all these kind of these things. And I mean, he's an amazing creative mind, and they're all incredibly helpful. And it's just what comes out is my interpretation of those ideas. And yeah, the process started with lots of different little what seemed like disjointed little scenes, which eventually, as the process goes on, we started to understand how they're connected, because a lot of these are things they come from somewhere, or these little ideas that Botis is giving me, and they might seem like they don't connect, but as we develop the piece, we learn how they connect. And I think that's because it's sort of like you're just going off into like creative instinct, and this and I think these things just come up, and it's just like you go blah, and these are the things that I want to explore, and you don't understand them yet, like, and that's why I think we don't really talk explicitly about the subject matter, what we're trying to convey, because we don't necessarily know what we're trying to convey specifically, but we have a feeling. And I think as we make the piece, we start to learn how the narratives come together, because there really wasn't, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that there was no real sense of narrative, especially in the first version of Black Dog. There was really no narrative, and that's something that I feel like we discovered that later.
That's cool. No, I like, because I like the whole process and how you guys have broken it down, because it is very fluid, but it's also then relying. You guys have a really great relationship, and it's a very unique relationship as well, because it's the fact of knowing that it's like, look, Torben, I need this to feel purple, right? And it's like the same way. It's like if I was to say to someone, it's like, what does purple taste like? You know, most people be like, oh, grape or grape drink. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, how do you create the feeling of purple? I mean, don't be wrong. One of my favorite tracks from Lars is the color purple. I believe it's called, from back in the day. But yeah, no. So yeah, that's so interesting, because it's not like and everyone's got their own creative process. I think that's the thing which a lot of people need to kind of pull away from in the creative world, is that a lot of more older teachings say in order for us to do these things, you need to do it as an ABC, you know, your 3 sets, or depending on what you're doing, your 3 stages, you know, beginning, middle, end, or this is the way you produce something, or this is the way you put things together, rather than being like, okay, I've been inspired off this book, which touches onto depression, which is also a very big thing in mental health, especially within just all communities, but definitely within the Black communities as well, because we know, because this is going to be coming out within, you know, Black History Month, so by the time this airs, and there's a very big stigma sort of around of being the whole thing of just tough it up and get along with it. Almost kind of, we get where it resonates from, And the whole fact that, you know, someone have to work, you know, three more jobs more so than someone else to gain the same amount. Now, there is a lot of cloak and dagger stuff with this. I guess everybody wants an impact because once again, you know, you had your greats like your Martins, who worked with all communities because his whole thing was, and that's sorry, Martin Luther King Jr. So in case no one jumps on my back about that, but he also was anyone who was poor, and he was actually uniting. And even like the Black Panther Party, same thing again. It was just who was poor and who was without. That was the whole thing about how we kind of come together and try to create these things. But in your sense, when you read the book, how did it make you really kind of, because I know you wanted to convey this feeling with Black Dog, which, you know, once again, I completely see, I kind of get that whole feel too. What feelings did you get through? Could you relate to some of these things that the author was expressing, or the way that the mental paths went, or was it more of a kind of, oh wow, I didn't realize it was kind of like that?
Yeah, I think I resonated a lot because when you're reading the book, you're reading basically pain, and that's what hurts, because it's like, because some of the stuff that she writes in there, you're reading it, you're just like, I'm not sure if she's still okay. Like, obviously you can't come out of the cave knowing that you've just gone through this depressive state. But I think it was just, I think a lot of it started to come with a lot of imagery, and I was just like, we're not really. I think the main thing for me when I was reading it, I was like, well, basically we're not really okay. It's just that just because she wrote this book, it doesn't mean that everything is sorted out. It's just that she's just, again, she's an artist, so she's just trying to find a way to express it. But even what we're all trying to do as artists, we're trying to find a way to express certain things, but it doesn't mean after we finish a piece of work that all of those feelings go away. It's either, sometimes it could be worse. So I think it's that checking within ourselves as humans. Is like, when we are making a piece of work, like, what is at the end of it, what do I, as the artist, mentally, how do I come out of something? And I think that's kind of, I learned a lot from just reading that book. And it's crazy because I got halfway and I stopped it because it was a bit too deep.
Oh,
you know, yeah, I stopped it, man. I was just like, because it was like, it's dark, man. It's just like completely, at the time I was reading it at, I was trying to make a show, I was trying to look after my son as well. It was just like, I was reading it almost not at the wrong time, but it's just certain times when I was reading it, just wasn't, it's not a motivational book. It's like a
yeah. I kind of get the feeling.
I never got around to reading it. I've always felt I was a bit worried to read it because I worried if it was like a Ring situation, because, you know, she wrote the book and then she ended up taking her own life. I was worried, man, I don't know if you read this, are you gonna?
It's crazy because I only knew that she took her own life because I was going to invite her to come to watch a show at Saturday.
Wow. Okay.
So I went to like search her up, and it's just like, yeah, well, it just said like just commit suicide. And I was like, it's because I was almost excited to like just reading half it. I was like, yeah, I would love to just come watch and give your feedback, but it was just kind of a weird, but yeah.
Yeah, because I was just I'm obviously just so I now remember. So she actually had part in the creating the NL in the UK in 1985, and also so basically from a lot of the reviews, because by the time that we got confirmed, I didn't have enough time to read through it to kind of get at least a little bit of an idea. But I do understand from someone who has suffered from, you know, deep depressions and things of that nature, just from, you know, several things. Anyone who watches the pod knows that I freely talk about it, but near-death experience almost like last year with a combination of things, then you know, just general sort of upbringing. But it's like a lot of the things that you internalize, like, for instance, like I have a heavy internal monologue where other people may not, because I'm always having to kind of confirm to myself, like, okay, is that right? Is that wrong? Whatever. That mean I'm crazy, or in fact, it might be, I don't know. Us creatives are every color underneath the spectrum and everything beyond. But the crazy thing is that, like, I can understand where there's a point where you had to stop, because there's a point in a rabbit hole. Once you go down go down that far, it's hard to kind of see. It's hard to unsee some of those things, or even sometimes it's even hard to kind of relate, because sometimes you have to put yourself within that person's mind state, especially in a book. So you, depending on how you appeal, depending on how you resonate with it, depends completely on how you're going to come out on the other end of it. But from the clips that I've seen, and we've just gone through your website, so make sure everybody checks that out as well. So that's www.BLKDOG, just in case you're trying to spell Black Dog as in BLACK, it's BLKDOG. We're keeping it street.co.uk. Find all your information and get your tickets from there as well. But you seem to have captured it from the images, and that's what I get. There's like, it seems, because you're using like the cap kind of hoodie. You know what? In fact, better yet, let's go into that quickly. What inspired the whole wardrobe? How did what made you put the wardrobe together as such?
I'm happy you said cap, you know, because in all the reviews it's always about hooded figures who are killing people. But always,
what? Okay,
yeah, some of the reviews we get, it's just it's what it is. But yeah, the caps is for me, it's because I'm not really I don't know. I don't really speak as much when I'm around people, and like most of the times, I always like just want to be away from a lot of people. Like I just want to be in my headspace, and the whole idea of the cap just came from being in. If you were kind of in your own head, hearing your own thoughts, the way you talk to yourself. I think working with the costume designer Ryan Light, who was the costume designer for it, that was kind of the first idea. I was like, I just see this cap, and originally I think it was like an RAF like flight cap.
Yeah, it looks like one of those ones with the jacket we used to wear with the jackets and such.
Yes. I've got a question for you, Botis, relating to this. Has that that sample that clip that we did use early on from the guy flying the plane?
Yes.
Was that part of the inspiration for that? Because that's a connection that I made when I see the pilot caps. I was like, this is sort of a reference to that clip of that man that was flying. He's sort of like, what did he hijack? Oh no, did he even hijack it? I think he was a pilot, and then he recorded his voice saying like, I guess there's something wrong with me. I'm gonna crash it now.
Yeah, I'm gonna crash it now.
Trying to negotiate him to land or something.
Yeah, I think it probably may have been because I heard it. Probably during the time I already heard it. We were talking, having conversations with the cap as well. So I think it's also a lot with I think because it came from a lot with flying and being flying to another space and going to this new dimension in a sense. So I think it comes a lot from flying and also just being trapped in your head in it, which is not a nice feeling sometimes.
Because the story basis behind it I also find quite interesting as well, where it's the actual fact it's about a child star who's then now growing into adult, I believe is the way it was explained, and then it's him trying to regain that child stardom that they once felt. So what made you then, is that because like you said, is it because of your son that you wanted to kind of imbue this and kind of saw it as a grander level, or did you think, you know what, I'm fed up of these Logan Pauls and Justin Biebers and the industry turning them out like nothing without knowing what happens later on down the line when they don't make it?
Justin Bieber, you know.
He did alright, I'm not gonna lie.
He did good. He went off. Yeah. It's
not that he's doing he's doing well.
He's fine. He's doing well. I think the childhood stuff definitely came from my son. I think he, because again, like how free he is in terms of like the way he runs. Like sometimes you get a little bit jealous because you're just like, you're just running with no care. Like you don't see, you don't know what's on this side, like my side. And sometimes, not that you envy it, but you just realize that. And I think even now, just because he's 4 years old, and the amount of stuff that he takes in, or like stuff that he watches, or stuff that he sees, I can see when I was young in terms of how the amount of stuff that affected me growing up, and the stuff that I listened to or watched or heard my mum say and whatever. I think so in Black Dog, it does play a big part of trying to regain some of the childhood memories, and then some of the great memories that you had, and then negative memories that come back really do affect you in terms of like just trauma that kids go through, whether it is stuff like rape, and some kids don't understand how to deal with those emotions when they grow up, and they know they've been through that. So and in Black Dog we do speak about that we would look at those traumas, and like we figure a way to try to get out of them, and the saddest thing is sometimes you can't get out because it's happened to you, but it's like is there another way for you? And that's the question. That's the question that I ask a lot in the show. It's like, when you get to the end of the show, like where do we go now? Where do we go from here? So, yeah, it's a lot of questions. I think a lot of questions that we ask the audience and also ask ourselves is like, where do we go to? What's next? What's happening? And yeah,
I think that one of the most powerful things about the way that Botis has created it is that it doesn't try to explain anything. It's just sort of a statement of like, this is real, and you will have to deal with all the questions as an audience member that come up for you, and all the things that arise. That's your sort of job to work through, because it doesn't. It's definitely not trying to explain itself as a piece. It's just there for you to experience.
It's all right, yeah, man.
No, that's deep. Because actually, like I said, even watching, because doing my research and looking into all these clips and such, it is mesmerizing. So you've done an absolutely amazing job from this side. So I don't only kind of fathom what it's like to actually be in the actual crowd and actually watching it. But it's one of those things that I could see myself wanting to see on repeat at least a few times. So I'm better avoid it, because I might be one of those in there with a camera just for my own personal reason. Don't worry, I won't leak the footage. I'm a professional out here, but on a serious note though, it's like, if that's what you're looking to in capture, I can only say so much, because obviously I'm only here at this particular moment in time without physically seeing it. But even from those little small clips, and I'm not gassing, and that's not my job at all, it does feel like you have captured that space, as you're just saying, Torben. It's like, we're not here to give you the answers, because it's not the way it works, as you were also referring to earlier in the conversation. Is, well, it's okay to be individual, it's okay to be unique, it's okay to attack situations or approach situations without be sounding too aggressive, but it's okay to deal with these things in your own way. There's not always a said way with quite a lot of things. Okay, maybe surgery, yes, different thing altogether. But I mean, once again, you're trying to question someone who knows how to build a house, who's been building it from experience, and someone who's done it from going to school. They might do completely two different things, but get to the same point. So it's just about understanding that kind of thing in total. So that's, yeah, bro, that's absolutely crazy. And also just kudos to you, bro, man, for real, for actually just bringing the culture to life, to stage, and on his contemporary business as well, because the last time I saw this was on Save the Last Arts. Excuse me, guys, I'm just trying to sort out my screens here at the moment. I could definitely can multitask, but yeah, no, so that's just, yeah, once again my just appreciation, because I'm a real, anyone who knows me, I'm a serious hip-hop head. Look, I'm a serious hip-hop head. So seeing things like this and the transitions, I mean, even like when I've spoken to like Raheem from the Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5 on one of my Fast First interviews and podcasts. You guys can check that back out on the they are a bit lengthy, but I mean, on the first one, he just goes into there's just a whole vibe of actually before hip hop even was cutting records, that tapes were circulating through cabs and such, and how it was all like a real big community thing. And then on the second time we spoke to him, he's then telling us about his stories with Rick James. So I mean, it's just like there's such a wealth of knowledge from going back from there to actually then going completely forward, and it's just like another epic thing to add to the whole list of things when we look back and say, okay, but what has hip hop done, guys? We're not just a whole bunch of, no disrespect to these guys, we're not just a whole bunch of little rappers at the moment. We do have a whole culture around us and such. So
it's a little rappers.
Yeah, it really is. We're in a little generation. It's anyway. But then again, we had a nice generation, but it wasn't that bad. We only had a few ices here and there. But we're also showing love to the people that you're working with on this. So Sadler's Wells, the big world leading dance organization. How's your relationship been with them? Like, 'cause I've seen you've worked with them maybe once or twice before, wasn't it? Or is this your first attempt from?
I've worked with them. Yeah, I think this is like twice now, because I got introduced to them through Breaking Convention. So Breaking Convention are big hip hop. Yeah, yeah, man, they're leading in terms of hip hop culture, in terms of bringing it to the stage, and also they brought me onto that the first time I performed on that main stage was through Breaking Convention, so they gave me that opportunity. So yeah, big respects to them. But yeah, Sadlers are, for this in terms of Black Dog, that they've supported, they've helped it grow where it kind of needs to grow, and I think it's allowed it to reach the audiences that it needs to reach, because obviously their audiences. Predominantly for me, I think a lot of the audiences, into kind of the ballet and contemporary, because that's what's kind of always there. And there is hip hop there. I'm not saying hip hop is not there, but it's not enough compared to the stuff that they watch. So I think with this, it just breaks just trying to break the doors to open up new perspectives for their audiences to be like, okay, there's new things, and we can watch new things, and I think just allowing people to see different stuff, man, because it's super important. But man, they're super supportive, so I do have to also big them up, man.
Big shout out to them as well, man, for real. But you are right, because for generally anytime I hear Sadler's Wells, and this is no fault to their own, it is literally that market. And I don't think this is anywhere. It's literally that high end. That's a proper night on the evening, darling. Yes, this is what we're going to do. Sherry is in the lot. And bearing in mind, anyone from any shade can talk that way. I've heard it. I've been alive long enough to tell you that. But but what I'm just kind of, I suppose, tying it up, because I don't want to take you. I want to just thank you once again for your time on the podcast and such as well. But I mean, this is obviously a major one for you guys, but how did the whole BBC connection work with the Arts Council, who also is sponsoring? So shout out to the Arts Council. I'm applying for you soon too with my stuff. Not asking for any leg ups to say I'm helping, but no, real talk. No, I'm just writing my own fantasy story at the moment. But it's a way that I'm doing it. Which, funny enough, if you guys are cool, I'd love to stay in touch with you, Botis, because I'm actually want to add kind of a bit more of an outward creative element to how this whole thing's works.
Course,
but I'm not going to shamelessly just plug myself here, even though I will do. Why? Because it's free promotion as well. Free promotion. But yeah, no. So going to it. So Can't Kill Us All, commissioned by the BBC and Arts Council England in their quarantine program of 2020, which a lot, as you was talking about just before, maybe just at the beginning or just before, is how much this whole pandemic has killed. Live performers, live artists, live DJ, anything that's live went down in burning flames, unceremoniously at that. But yeah, how did that come across, and what was that kind of feeling like? Because you've worked quite a lot digitally as well, haven't you, Botis?
Yeah, Can't Kill Us All. Yeah, so basically it was just a commission. It was called the commission was from the BBC and the Arts Council, so they were partnering together. And the commission was called Culture in Quarantine, basically. So it was kind of commissioning artists to basically create something during lockdown, because basically I had nothing to do. Or you could be creative. I think it was just giving people the opportunity to be creative in a lockdown. Yeah, originally I wasn't really going to apply for it. I wasn't really up for doing anything creative during lockdown. My partner, producer, amazing woman, said, "Yeah, just do it. I've got this. I'm just going to write this idea." I came up with the title, and I was like, I don't really have nothing to like. I'm in quarantine. Like, I'm just stuck. I don't want to make like a lockdown thing, I think she pushed for it in the right way, because she knew that I was like. Amazing thing about her, she knows that I was like struggling creatively, so she's like, just push out the idea. So we applied for it, and then we got the commission, and then we started working on it. And then the crazy thing, even as this is coming out in Black History Month, the crazy thing, obviously, we were doing the project during the time George Floyd obviously got killed in America, and that was which was weird. It was a weird kind of point of going through that. And then I think just before that, it was Ahmed Arbery, who got shot, the kid who got shot just jogging. So I think that was, and when you watch the piece, a lot of the reason I'm running is obviously homage in terms of it's I use that imagery because of him. But it was just, I think doing that whole process and then realizing why my partner applied for it, it all linked up to be like, okay, it was the right time to make that kind of piece of work, because it's and also the title Can't Kill Us All, originally it was about like, I just said, it was kind of cheesy. I said, COVID can't kill us all, and it's not going to kill everyone, and we're all going to be all right. And then it turned into Can't Kill Us All, as in, the idea of COVID, but also just the other pandemic, which was the Black Lives Matter movement. So, I think I love that piece, man. It's a very special. It's special because we made it in a time where it was it's still relevant to today. But I think that piece for me just speaks volume in terms of what it is musically as well, and how Torben came up with the score and stuff as well, and how we worked with it. We also worked with a filmmaker called Ben Williams, who we work with a lot. So just having our free minds bring it together was it was a powerful moment, man. But that process I think was really important for the three of us, because it kept us busy over a really stressful time. The deepest part of the lockdown. It really kept us focused, and I think we really the creative relationship between the three of us just worked so easily and so smoothly, and I think we will connect on a certain level. Yeah, definitely. And it was just, that was an absolute. I mean, the subject matter was difficult to work through, but the actual process of making it was a real pleasure.
So, because we've touched on it so much, it's not like I'm one of those people that I believe it's relevant to always make sure that it's like the best way to look at it. Sorry, let me get my words out. Is it's good to forgive, but not to forget. And that's probably the best way in order to kind of move forward. Because once again, at least if anything, because we've touched on this on the podcast quite a few times because we was doing this, just after the period, but is at least it gave a lot of people that chance to reflect, because it's not like these things haven't happened, even here in the UK. And we look at it as just a case of just police, but we're forgetting until like the Euros happen, you then kind of remember that it's not just one side of the fence, it's a whole spectrum of things. And a lot of these things have happened, and obviously because of the ease of social media, I mean, there's I remember getting back when you're getting phoned literal videos of people, snuff videos basically, and you're wondering how did you even get access to this stuff. So even furthermore than seeing all of these shootings and all of these things happening, but because everybody's in there, I've just got to get them done doing. Stop complaining. Just get on with it. You must have done something wrong. The usual chat that we all hear. So for them to all slow down and then be, having to watch that whole process fall out, I think it's a great start. But I mean, this is work that the greats have been doing from way back in the day, from even through the civil rights movement and beyond that to get us here. So once again, thank you to you both, and also in the case of the connection on both sides of that, because I think it's like where most of us who actually believe in the cause is like, look, the only way we're all going to move forward is if we literally learn each other, or at least learn or appreciate other people's cultures and understand, like, I would rather not like you for you as a person than just to have a frontal case of saying, I don't like you just because I feel you fit into a certain narrative. So just thanks once again, guys. And I'm pushing through that as well to deliver, such a moving piece, because that's the reason why I was like, I had to check my phone as I did watch it, because obviously you're on lockdown, so you're trying to consume as much content as you can, or content that I think was worth it, because you can just binge. There's some stuff I'm ashamed I binged. Just put it that way.
That's right what you said. I think it's just adding on to that as well. I think it's hard because obviously with everything that happens as well, I think because we are online all the time as well, but I think it's especially for, like I say, younger generations, people younger than myself, because I'm also young, but it's just how we find a way to teach and not hating, like I think it's very difficult for a young 17-year-old. I think it's different, like a young 17-year-old being at home, seeing that stuff and being like, I don't like white people because of this kind of different thing. I think we just have to find ways to be able to teach that. Because I think I'm not finding it now, but it's just like the more I talk to people, is the more that I feel a lot of a 16-year-old, 17-year-old talking to me. I feel their anger and pain, and they can't clearly articulate it yet, and they are saying things. I'm just like, that's not the right thing to say, but I know why you're angry. So it's just it's the education around it, like a lot of the education. You're not getting it from school. You're getting it from people like ourselves who can really do that, and through the arts of what we're doing. So I think it's important, even for anyone listening. I think we just have to find a way to really teach younger people how not how to communicate emotions, but just how we speak about it. And it's just my little 2 pence.
I think I was going to say that the powerful thing about Can't Kill Us All, I think, and why it was so important and effective was that like I sort of mentioned about Botis's other work and Black Dog, is it's not trying to, like I said, it's not trying to explain anything. And I think some people get too caught up in the rhetoric of debate around certain subjects, and they're trying to find clever ways to outmaneuver someone's rhetoric, like with a rhetorical trick and things like this. And I think the really powerful thing about Can't Kill Us All is you get to see you're not trying to explain anything, you're not trying to apologize for anything, you just see the effects of a situation on a man, and you're just confronted with that reality, and then you just have to deal with your reaction to that. And I think that's a powerful way of explaining and exploring those ideas, because you're not trying to say like, well, you see percentages of this that mean this, and then there's this amount of the BAME community don't get into this, and that's very detrimental because of these reasons. It's going like, okay, we'll put that aside for the moment. What does this look like for a real person in their house right now?
Yes.
What does that really feel like? And then I think that's a better way to activate sort of empathy modules that we have inside of ourselves without trying to, because rationality is great as long as you're open to the real facts, because you can rationalize yourself into your own. You can sometimes not account for your own biases, and you can think you're being super logical, but you've convinced yourself of certain things. But this doesn't have to be. You don't have to convince anyone when you're just saying, this is how I feel, and this is what it really looks like. And that's I think it's a really powerful way of explaining some of these things.
And that's a powerful way to articulate that as well, because it's that's what I said, these I believe is the essential, this is basically the essential conversations that need to happen in order for, like you're saying, in the case of the youngers, about how to articulate. Then it's like, on one hand, then you got people that telling you this statistically this and this statistically that, and it's like, yeah, we get that, but then, as we all know, numbers and media, they have their own agendas, as we've seen completely, and it's historically bound. So, and I think what's quite amazing though is that even especially in the creative spaces and especially as we're now getting younger, the older generation, probably a bit more stubborn than most, but we're now more open to working with whoever, whenever, happy to infuse, because we really get and understand, like, oh, you know what, like, for instance, myself, I'm heavily inspired by graffiti, hip hop and whatnot, but I'm also love my comics and my manga, and that's also then leaks into my style to then help me create something which is my own. And the same thing can be done with, like, hip hop's always taken breaks, cuts from things from all over the place, and then now we've got you taking not just a case of street dance but turning it into contemporary, so it's, and then making it into a whole thing. And then now with someone like Torben not being what most people would consider a regular producer, it's like, no, bro, like, I need something for my 16 in it on this thing I'm spitting, that's fat. No disrespect to you lot, but yeah, it's like, okay, how can I bring you to life with my music, which means there's an actual additional love and care for what you guys are doing. So nah, man, you guys are some seriously amazing, crazy creative minds. And I hope we can keep this relationship going in some way, shape or form, keep it professional, of course. Unless you want to take me out for drinks, then, can't guarantee the outcome. But other than that, we'll leave it on this. How do you feel about the stance with the TikTok dancers, if you are up to date with that?
I think you're asking the wrong guys.
No, I think, I see him laughing. You know what happened, right? I'm guessing Botis, yeah?
Oh, what happened? What?
Oh, you didn't hear? Okay, well,
we are disconnected people.
Right, yeah. So, see, with me, because I suppose, you guys have got a lot of work going on, so I can completely understand where this is kind of my whole field. So, makes sense. Mm-hmm. So basically, TikTok dancers been, popping off, especially during the whole COVID section, right?
Yeah.
So this ties back into the whole, representation and how certain social networks also represent everybody fairly. So a lot of the more famous dancers, the dancers that kind of come across, you'll see predominantly, white, Asian, basically the ones that TikTok would highly put up in the algorithm. Yeah. So what's basically started to find is that there's been like a lot of black content creators who are actually the ones who have originated the dances, but they don't get recognized for them in any way, shape or form. And they don't get pushed up on the algorithm. Exactly. And then what happened was for a period of time, I'm not sure if it's still ongoing, basically all the black TikTokers decided to go on strike and wouldn't create any new dances. And then the whole dance community on the whole TikTok thing. I mean, if you guys want a little bit of humor, just research it up and just look at, black TikTokers on strike.
Oh wow!
There's loads of YouTube videos. There's loads of things. Loads of people talking about it. But you literally see the full social impact of when we go. Wow. Well, or the people behind the scenes go, you know what? No, we're not doing this anymore. Stay in your corner, kind of thing. So, all right, that's fine.
Wow.
But 100% happened. I was following it quite not intensively, but I just couldn't help but laugh, because when you start seeing some of the videos and some of the things that these people are doing. Oh Lord, you'll have fun, especially you guys in the dance community.
Well, I suppose it becomes like a little microcosm of the world at large, doesn't it? In terms of the way that culture moves and translates and things.
It's changing, but I think before I would have been like, oh, TikTok this, but it's just, I think culturally it's also it's different. But I think that idea of like things getting taken, I think it's happened throughout years of history of everything. So I don't think it's. I need to check this out, boy. This sounds like probably be like a little fun little.
Bruh,
trust me.
Yeah, no, literally, they're legitimate, and you see them. They because obviously I'm not even on TikTok myself. The only time I'm going to jump on there is when I'm doing my next batch of promotion for my website and such. But it's only strictly business. But because you've obviously got YouTube creators and other people, and when I came across it, I was like, Are they being for real? And then once again, you see the whole social impact because of them just going, we're not creating any more, no more new dances for you guys. Like, done. Because once again, they're not being represented as they should be. But I'm not going to get into the more economical social, standings of certain social media things and algorithms and such. But anyway, gentlemen, plug yourselves. Anything other than, as we showing your dates, everybody, like I said, I'll put all the links in the descriptions below. So get your tickets, follow them, support them, all of that stuff. But any other shameless plugs you guys want to drop right now? Any shout outs, anything?
No, just come to the show. Like super important, man. Like, if you've got like a friend that you just know that kind of needs some sort of different motivation, anyone that's kind of probably struggled through depression, or someone at home, or you want someone to kind of just watch something to kind of leash out energy. It's a piece that bring your family, people, bring people to come watch the show, man. We're going to be in London as well. So
and especially if you have friends or family that are dubious about the extent to which hip hop can be effective. It's really breaks the confines of hip hop, I think, and then really pushes it to its limits and shows what it can be. And I think that's an important thing for a lot of people that might not necessarily see the show otherwise, because they see maybe it's a hip hop thing. Definitely, get those Black Dog dates. You will not regret it. It's the fastest hour of your life.
And it's only an hour. It's an hour as well. Damn.
It's an hour and 2 minutes.
I'm gonna be one of those. When I find myself down there, I want more. I'm gonna look, okay, you need to do a remix, right? I want a double CD version. I'll make you guys work for this. No, for real. But once again, thanks very much. For your time, for your contributions, for everything you're doing, the ways you're pushing everything forward for the culture in just general, and also for yourselves. And I think this is kind of healthy as well, that people get to hear your journey and your perspectives and the way that you look at stuff, because it might teach someone something new. So that's my little Jerry Springer piece to finish the show with.
Thank you, man, for such fantastic, sensitive questions. I think it's been very enjoyable.
Oh, thanks, man. Like I said, I deal with people. As that's it. We go from there. We flow. And because it's all about you at the end of the day. When it's my turn, then I'm probably going to be about a 5 to 6 hour podcast, to be honest with you. But we'll leave it as it stands from there. But thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. If you stayed till this point to the IAmHipHop podcast, powered by High Creativity. I know the background, we need to kind of still alter that a little bit. So also as well, for everybody else, that now I'm going to be doing my own separate High Creativity podcast as well. But we will be still here on a monthly basis. Other than that, everyone else have a great October, man. It's Black History Month. Get your knowledge on, man. Get your culture on, and get some good food in your belly. Thanks very much, gentlemen, man. Peace.
Thank you.
All right. Peace.